India has been in the headlines for all the wrong reasons in the last few weeks, but today they'll be happy to be in the headlines for some very, very big news coming in. They are going to buy 470 aircrafts. They put out a note today saying they have issued letters of intent. They will be buying 250 of those from French company Airbus and 220 from American company Boeing. Some context, this is the largest jet order by a single airline coming at a time when the world is crying about a global recession, and it shows intent as far as the Tata Group is concerned in wanting to remake Air India. Let me go across quickly to my colleague Madhav, who is giving us the details of what Air India wants to do.
Well, let's just break this down for our viewers because this is a historic deal any which way you look at it. Perhaps no airline has announced these many aircraft, and this is why it's very important to look at this, is that it is not just for the domestic market. A large number of these aircraft will be on the transcontinental or the long haul routes, and that is what makes this deal that much more important. Just to quickly break it down for our viewers, the order comprises of 40 Airbus A350s, 20 Boeing 787s, 10 Boeing 777-9s, wide-body aircraft, as well as 210 Airbus A320, 321 Neos, 90 Boeing 737 MAX single-aisle aircraft, and the A350 aircraft that will be powered by Rolls-Royce engines, and B 777s or 787s by engines from GE Aerospace. Now, all the single-engine aircraft are of CFM international engines, but what is very important is that single-aisle aircraft, I beg your pardon, what is important is that it's not just single-aisle aircraft. We're not just talking about the aircraft that are required for domestic consumption, which is of course a bulk of them, but a large number of them are for the long-haul routes, and that is very important. So Air India very clearly has massive plans, not just of expansion within the country, but also of the neighborhood and also the long-haul flights.
What are the implications? Ajay Awtaney with me on the show. I'm speaking with Jitendra Bhargav. Welcome to both of you. Mr. Bhargav, let me begin with your take on why this is a game changer. Is it easy to say that this is one of the largest moves in aviation history in recent times?
It is, in fact, one of the largest orders, and considering the fact that Tata's took control of Air India only in January last year, and to have worked out the fleet requirement and what they need to have, where they need to expand the network, it's all a very welcome move, and they're justifying the decision of the government to disinvest Air India and hand it over to a private entity. So I'm totally delighted that Air India will regain, and Indian aviation will regain what it lost out in the last 20 years. When we knew that India is a growing market, most of the international traffic was handed over on a platter to the Gulf carriers in Southeast Asia. And on the domestic front, again, Indigo was virtually monopolized with 55% plus market share. So it needed some kind of a challenge, and I'm sure Tatas have worked it up. They had earlier announced that they're targeting a market share of 30% of the domestic market in the next 5 years. So, with this kind of an order placed, I think they are trying to prepone the attainment of the target of 30% in a shorter span of time. And what makes more important, I think the greater importance is, no, Tamanna, just one point. This order is so huge that it got the President of France, Prime Minister of India, Joe Biden of the United States to hail the placement of order. When have we witnessed this in the past?
For what is now a private entity. So that's important as well. Ajay Awtaney, so this means competition for Indigo. But is this expansion focused on the domestic aviation market or for international flights? Where do you see this fitting in the strategy to rebuild Air India?
Hi, Tamanna. So first and foremost, this is the largest aviation order in commercial aviation history ever placed. So kudos to Air India for that, because obviously, they are trying to show that they have big ambitions. Coming to your question about, where does this order stand? Let's first remember, this order is going to be, it'll take about 5, 6, 7, or maybe even a decade to fill up this order. Okay, so it's not an order that is kind of going to be filled up in the next 3 years or so. It's going to take a long time to fill up this complete order, number one. Number two, in the current world, what happens is the same aircraft that are flying domestically during the day are flying to Singapore or flying to Dubai during the night. So basically, the same aircraft are going to be used in India as well as in parts of Asia to fly, fly around Asia. So that's one implication. Plus, obviously, there's 70 aircraft which will be used uh, for, flying into deep Europe or flying to the US. I think some of these can also fly into South America if there is traffic. Africa has been an uncharted territory for Indian carriers, and there's a huge Indian diaspora there. Australia, a lot of routes are possible. So I think while the narrow body planes will be used mostly for domestic and regional flights in Asia and Middle East, obviously there are these long haul giants that have been ordered, which will help us go all the way to the US on one side and to Australia and Japan on the other. So the sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. Mr. Bhargav, is this also going to sort of challenge the Middle East carriers that have had quite a good run on international travelers from India into the Middle East, even into, London and different parts of the US?
Tamanna, it's not going to be just the Gulf carriers, even the Southeast Asian carriers. If we go back into history and see which were the airlines that ordered large capacity, long haul A380 aircraft, it was all in our neighborhood, the Gulf carriers and the Southeast Asian carriers, that will funnel the Indian traffic on from various cities into the hub and then fly A380 to United States from there. So once you have 70 of these long haul aircraft capable of flying to Japan, Australia, Europe, United States of America, non-stop being the order of the day, and Air India already operates 47 services per week to 5 destinations in the United States. What we need now is flying from different cities in India like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, also to United States direct flights, so that the need for a passenger to go via a Gulf station is obviated. You don't need to do that. I can fly non-stop. What Air India had done was to have concentrated the flights out of Mumbai and Delhi, and only recently out of Bangalore. So once you've expanded the network footprint in India, footprint in the United States, why only 5 destinations in US? That's my question. Because there's a large diaspora in Houston, for example, Boston,
quick
Los Angeles,
question before I wrap up, and because we must always temper enthusiasm. Very big day for an Indian carrier. We're all excited about it. Mr. Bhargav, the planes are going to take time to come. The market has to grow to that extent. And the Tatas have to avoid mistakes made by Air India in the past.
No, Tamanna, there's no denying
they seem to be very confident that demand will come.
Oh, demand exists. It's only because India has not been able to provide non-stop services to USA. Existing traffic is being funneled by the Southeast Asian carrier and the Gulf carriers. So one, of course, says even if the demand is to remain steady, Air India will be able to take the traffic onto its own flights. And the other thing, of course, is that India is a growing market. We will be growing. There's no denying of that aspect. More and more people are going abroad for working. The families are there, and the large diaspora that we have in the United States, etc. The traffic, I don't think, will be an issue. And let's also not forget the fact that of these aircraft that have been ordered, 470 in all, a lot many aircraft of the Air India's existing fleet will require replacement in the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Yes, they have an aging fleet. That's right.
Between 2007
I'm out of time, but I want to give Ajay. Ajay wanted to come in. Yes, Ajay, quickly, please. I request.
Yeah, Tamanna, I just wanted to say, there is enough traffic, I guess, for the Middle East carriers and the Indian carriers as well. Just remember, Air India has just ordered the planes today. Okay, you need a lot of pilots to fly these. You need a lot of additional cabin crew to, staff these planes. And what will eventually differentiate what Air India has to offer is also going to be what we call in the industry the hard product that will be installed on these aircraft. Obviously, money can buy you the best of things, but we've seen how the same Indian population that is very well behaved on Middle East carriers is not very well behaved on Indian carriers. Okay, so I'm saying we need a great product inside these aircraft to sway these people away from the Middle East or Singapore Airlines or whatever else. Okay, so The battle
So
is
letter
the
of
top
intent.
the battle.
Letter of intent has been signed today. That is step one. The letter of intent is there. All of this actually has to come. You know, buying an airplane is not like you order something off Amazon. It's not going to come tomorrow, day after. It's going to be over time. But it shows that Air India is willing to compete with the biggest and best in the world. And that definitely is something to take heart in. Thank you so much, Ajay and Jitendra Bhargav, for joining us on the show. I'm completely out of time. I will have to wrap it here, but I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Hope to see you then.